everyone, and welcome to the Port Center Spotlight Podcast. My name is Andrew Murata, host of the program, and I am proud, I am excited, and really curious to learn about this young man and hear from him. This is Bryce Shannon, 11th grader here at Port Jervis High School. Bryce, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Bryce is a newer student here with us. He did not spend his whole career here. You joined us this year as an 11th grader.
I did, yes. Yeah. I came from PJHS, which was part of the Homestead School up in Glens Bay.
Okay. Tell me about that decision for you and your family, Bryce, and the timing of it.
Yeah, so it was a newer school. And just as I was coming into 11th grade, that is newer, so they hadn't fully figured everything out. And so we figured we'd just play it safe and come to a already established school for college setup and such.
Yeah. Port's been around a couple of years, so if you are watching the show live, jump in, say hello to Bryce, introduce yourself, and certainly lots to learn here. Bryce, it was not long. I've been doing this show for a year also, but it was not long where people said, you got to meet Bryce. You got to meet Bryce. You made a splash pretty quickly here. Athletically, you got involved with the cross country team. Was that something that has always been part of your life? Has running always been part of your life?
Yeah, just about. I haven't always run competitively throughout my life, but I used to play soccer and baseball, but I decided to stop and was looking for another sport and decided that I liked running. So I've been doing that for, let's see here, maybe about 6-7 years now.
Okay. But this was your first season varsity, competing on the varsity level cross country.
For Port,
yeah.
I competed last year and the year before for CCHS.
Okay, so you ran on their track team.
I did, yes.
Okay. Well, starting the season out, Bryce, did you have any goals? Did you know that you were pretty good? Where were you in terms of when you started?
I had some larger goals, and my hope was to make it onto states, as I made it onto state quals last year as well, but I wasn't completely sure. But after my first race, I had made it, or I'd broken my PR by almost over a minute.
Wow!
And so at that point, I was like, all right, I'm on the right course. And so then this kind of from there on, that's when I was training or that was my goal.
Yeah. And your coach knew right away that you were the real deal?
Well, he quickly figured that out. So.
Yeah, you got to run fast. So Bryce qualified for the States, made it to the States, and had a tremendous showing, finished 29th in the state. And when in Class B, but when you hear the number, you're like, oh, 29. But 29 on New York State, like how many total people were there, Bryce?
In my race, there was around, I think, like 170.
Incredible there, finishing there. Tell me about your mindset on that day, starting, during, afterwards. Tell me about your mindset to prepare for that.
Well, it's a really large race, and so like the setup is, it's once you get there, it's like there isn't really any other races that like you feel that competition and such. And going in there, I knew from state quals a few of the other runners who were coming up from our section. So I'd seen them about, but really it's about kind of like getting out there, loosening up, but just making sure you get into the mindset of like you're ready to compete at that level. And you're definitely nervous before the race, but that's kind of what helps you get like the adrenaline pumping.
Yeah.
And then once you get going, then it's like it's putting everything to the test.
And is it like, half marathon, where it's a fixed length, or are they all a little different?
So for cross country, it is typically a 5K. There are a few like high school courses that are slightly different, but for competition, it is a 5K. Yes.
And do they have it marked where mile 1, mile 2? Like
most courses, this one did is state. So the big courses, yeah, they'll have that kind of stuff marked. They typically have it marked at each K and then each mile.
Got it. So when you see that marker, do you go here real quick? Okay, here's where I'm at. I need to go faster. What are you doing?
Well, for me, I don't actually like to run with watches competitively.
Wow.
So I'll do them in like training and that kind of thing because I need to get the times.
Yeah.
But in the race, I don't like to look down because that'll slow me down. So I run how I feel.
Wow.
I run with the people around me with my competition. Yeah. And when you do see me running, I do like to run with 2 watches because that also makes me feel slightly uneven. That's just a mental thing. That's fun.
And what does the unevenness help? How does that help
I
you?
don't know. I think making it feel even helps me focus on my stride.
Yeah.
And my form when running.
Okay.
But yeah, just.
And when it was over, how did you feel? What did you? What, you know?
Well, I was quite happy with how I did.
Yeah.
Trying to remember what time I got. I think I got a 17, maybe something.
Wow.
I might be slightly off.
Wow.
But so it was a decent time for me. It wasn't a PR, but it was a harder course.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I was happy how I did first time at States, and hoping, well, fairly sure I'll make it there next year. That's my goal.
Is it a goal to make it back to where you were?
It is. Yes.
And beat the time as
yeah.
good?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Okay.
Keep improving.
Well, you certainly created a buzz for cross country. And as a newer student, I mean, people say, Andrew, you got to meet him. You got to meet him, based on just so quickly making that achievement. So congratulations to you and your family.
Thank you.
Again, representing Port Jervis, we're excited to have you here. If you are watching the show, again, jump in, say hello, leave Bryce a comment. So, Bryce, let's go back to transitioning to Port Jervis. Again, you made a decision to come. We're excited about that. How was that to start a new place your junior year? Tell me about the transition coming here.
Well, I education-wise, I think I was able to transition pretty well. Socially, I didn't know that many people, so I was figuring things out in that way. And it's definitely a different dynamic between the 2 schools. One's significantly smaller.
Yeah.
And so those are all the differences. But I was able to roll with it and figure out what was going on.
You seem pretty easygoing. Yeah.
I tried to be, yes.
What was something that you were like, oh my God, this is really cool. I really like this. And what was something that this was challenging or it was a surprise to you? So let's start with the first one. What was something that you were like, I really like this?
Well, I like all the classes that I'm taking. Enjoying those with the college credits and such. So that all seems like it would be helping me in the future.
For sure.
Let's see, what else?
And along that point, one of the things we're really excited about this year, that it's at no cost to our students. Kids can take college classes. It's at no cost. And they are racking them up like pancakes at a Sunday breakfast, which is incredible. Kids like Bryce are getting those college credits. And so, how many are you taking right now?
I think I'm taking 3.
Okay. 3 classes.
3 classes.
For 9 credits.
Yes.
Okay. Very good. And he's doing very well academically. What was something, Bryce, that was a surprise to you or a challenge for you?
Well, one thing that I know was not necessarily a surprise or a challenge, but I was hoping there would be a larger cross country team.
Mm-hmm.
So I put it out there, like people to join. But let's see here. Challenge. I'm not completely sure at the moment.
You could take a pass on that. And here's what we'll do. Since you helped put cross country on the map, let's do a little commercial, a little promo for fall sports near the end of the spring season here.
Sure.
Because kids like you that are winning championships and state qualifications certainly bring attention to that. So, again, new student here. Did well here in the fall athletically. You turn around now, you're going to play spring track or compete in spring track. What are some of the things that you will compete for in track?
I will compete in the 800 meters, the 1600 meters, which is 1 mile, and the 3200 meters, which is 2 miles, as well as then I'm working on keeping a 4x8 team. Sure.
the cross country kids would always make sure I understood the distinction between cross country and track. It's not track; it's cross country. So, what are some of those differences for the novice, Bryce? For
Sure,
someone who
sure.
doesn't know, they're just running, but there
So-
are definitely differences.
So, well, first off, the obvious ones are the distance. Cross country, at least once you get up to varsity, is 5K. Once you get into college, then it's an 8K or 10K. So they tend to be longer. Then the terrain is different. Cross country is an all-terrain sport, so you could be running across pavement. You could be running on a track, grass or sand or whatever. Let's see here. The one thing that's fun about cross country is that it is also a team sport, which is not typically what you think of when you think of cross country.
Mm-hmm.
So it's 7 for a team. The 5 places score, and you're going for the lowest amount of points. And then the second 2 or the last 2, 6 and 7, will displace any of the other teams. So that is my goal for next year, hoping to get some more runners so we can have a team. But
And how did we have good numbers for spring track coming out? You start next week, right? Or you started now?
The 18th, which I think is next week.
Coming up, yeah.
Or the week after.
Okay.
But yes, it looks like we have good numbers. So I'm hoping to recruit some of the distance runners from there.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And Coach Wright and the team had a tremendous winter season,
Yes.
really hitting the mark in a number of areas. Constantino Proscia really, but there are kids that are excelling in track and field, and we wish you the best on that journey.
Indeed,
It's
thank you.
exciting. And let's do that promo commercial. But Bryce, you're excelling academically, you're excelling athletically, but you have an interesting love. You have an interesting hobby outside of school. Most kids say, "Oh, I'm a gamer," or I got a part-time job," or I asked Bryce what he's into, and he said birding. He's an avid birder. You're not just an avid birder; you're a falconer.
Indeed, yes.
Tell us. I'm from New York City, Bryce. People are running from the bird. Tell me what is a falconer? Where did this love of birds come from?
So I guess I kind of just liked, being outside. So I used to live in the city as well. We go to the park all the time, and so that's why I like just being outside.
Yeah.
And then I got into birds, and realized, there's this thing where you go out and you're supposed to ID birds with binoculars and such. And so I kind of fell in love with that. And then just recently, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, I had seen this guy come done a demonstration with birds of prey, and so I was like, "Oh, that's cool." And so I looked more into it, and I just happened to go through the right steps and be in the right place at the right time, and I was able to become a falconer, which means I train birds of prey, so like hawks and owls and eagles and falcons, and all that sort of stuff. So,
do you have one? Do you own a bird?
I do. I have a red-tailed hawk. Her name is Hypatia. So,
and where does she live? Like, is she in the tree in your yard? Is she in a cage? How does that work?
See, she lives it's like a shed. It's called a mew, MEW, and it's like an 8 by 8 by 10 kind of shed, and that's where she stays, and go to work with her and such.
Can she leave during the day, like when you're at school,
No,
or is she?
No. That's one of the fun things about falconry. Is that the birds are still wild, so they're not tame like you would have a dog.
Yeah.
And so if I were to release her, she would just fly away and not come back.
Wow.
So it's not like she does not rely on me in any way. So that's the training part. It's you train them to realize, oh, you have food, so I'm going to come back to you, and all this other stuff. And so it's kind of like a partnership in that way.
Yeah. So you have the
I do
safety thing on your arm.
Yeah.
You go into the shed or the mew, and she jumps on your arm?
Yeah.
And then how do you make sure she comes back?
Well,
I can't get my dog to come back. You got the bird coming back.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing with birds of prey. They're not social animals, so you can't punish them or anything like that. They won't understand that as a way of training. So what you do is it's all food based. It's like, all right, you come and get used to me, and as a result, you get food, or you learn that when I blow my whistle, that means I have food, so you'll come to me, and all this other stuff. And eventually, you start getting farther and farther, and she'll keep on coming back to you because she realizes you have food. And yeah.
And just like you train for your events, running and getting in shape, does the bird have to train for certain things?
So not necessarily to be in shape. I mean, birds that they need to be in shape, but it's not like she needs to work out or anything to get stronger.
Yeah.
She's just kind of naturally fit in that way, as she's a wild animal. But yeah, it's kind of constant training. I have to work with her every day, usually for about an hour at least, and just kind of. When you start off kind of like close. She'll jump to you, like give food, but after a while, then you can take her out. You can release her up into a tree, and she'll fly along beside you as you go for a walk.
Oh, wow.
And call her down, that kind of thing.
Wow.
But yeah, so it's pretty exciting.
That is very impressive. Again, jump in, say hello, leave a question or a comment. Were you scared that the thing was going to cut you, bite you, eat you?
Well, here's the thing with hawks. A lot of people fear the beak. But it's not the beak that you want to watch out for. It's the talons.
Yeah.
One toe from their talon or from their foot can squeeze over 4 times the pressure that you can squeeze with your entire hand. And so then that's not including that they have a 2-inch long dagger essentially on the each end. So that's the thing with hawks. Once they grab you, you just have to wait for them to let go.
Wow.
So I've had plenty of nerve-wracking experiences. I don't know if it's still visible, but I had a scar millimeters away from my eye.
From the talon?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. So do you wear glasses now?
No, I do not.
You do not?
No. Huh. Yeah, it's usually the thing with really all animals is they're not just going to attack you out of spite. There's usually a reason, so that's why you always learn from those mistakes.
Yeah.
Some of them a bit more than others.
Wow.
So in that scenario, I was actually wearing a red sweatshirt, and the red can aggravate birds because they see it as blood. And I had a hood, and so she saw that, and she was like, "Oh, that's strange," and flipped right up and grabbed me.
Wow. So you can't wear your red Port Jervis hoodies.
I cannot.
When
No.
you're training.
I can wear this one. This is small enough that she doesn't.
Wow.
Get mad about.
Bryce, what a cool hobby. What a cool love. We talked a little bit off air. Is that something you'd like to turn your future towards, working with birds, working in conservation, things like that?
Yeah. So these past few years, I have been doing a lot more with like raptor conservation and such. But for the future, I would like to study birds just in general, and then I would hope to conservation efforts help them out various ways I can.
Is like going into park ranger or something like that? Or?
I don't think so. More of like the studying like science kind of thing. Like one thing I am quite interested in is bird migration. And so I would like to study that for a little bit.
Yeah.
Figure out more about that. That's a generally unknown kind of area of birds at the moment.
Do the red-tailed hawks, are they up here all winter?
So for red-tailed hawks, it depends. A fair amount of them migrate down south, but then a few of them will stay up here. It's all about the food scarcity. So there's still food up here in the winter for red-tailed hawks, but not necessarily enough to support all of them that are up here in the spring. And so that's why it just depends on how they were raised. Some of them will fly south, and some of them that stayed up here their whole lives will just stay up here and continue doing what they're doing.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So will you, thinking about dogs, do people breed the dogs? Is mating your bird?
So
something?
For breeding birds of prey, you actually need a special license for that. So that's not what I have.
Okay.
But that is something that people do, which I would be interested in eventually going for that. It's like an addition to the falconry license.
Wow.
And so that's how you get a lot of the birds for falconers, at least, that you can't trap in the wild. But so I don't know if you heard about in the city, Flacco, who had just recently passed away, sadly, from a collision with a building. He was the escaped Eurasian eagle owl from the Bronx Zoo.
Oh, I did not hear about
You did not?
that.
All right.
No.
Well, he was actually the relative. He's the brother of my sponsor. So for falconry, since I'm an apprentice, I need to have a sponsor who's
Yeah,
teaching me.
yeah.
So he has Flacco's brother.
Oh,
And so those would be bred in captivity as
okay.
they're from China and like Russia
Oh,
area.
wow.
So,
Wow.
yeah.
Bryce, it's fascinating. I was a biology major. We traded stories a little bit, but it's fascinating. We wish you good luck with that. It's so nice to meet someone who has a passion and they go do their passions. Bryce, interviewing students, I've asked, who is somebody who's really impacted them, and kids can go back, in time. They remember their second and third grade teachers here in Port Jervis. You've only been here a short time, but who has been a couple of adults that have really helped you along your way, welcomed you here, things like that?
All right. Well, I'd like to give a shout out to Miss Doherty. Of course, she's my math teacher. She's very encouraging, and she's been making math quite fun. So,
Yeah.
definitely her. Let's see who else. Really, all the teachers that I've had have been very, very nice to me. And then, of course, my cross country coach, Coach Leroy. He's not a teacher here.
Yeah, but he's
give
a
a shout out to
retired
him.
teacher.
Yeah.
His kids came to school here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Cool. Well, and again, as somebody new here, we appreciate your opinion of what you've kind of came into, but then certainly excelling in there. So next year's senior year, again, we talked about some goals athletically. What are some goals for you personally and, academically as you going to turn the page to college?
Well, for me, my reach at the moment is Cornell, because they have the third best college for bird studying birds. It's called ornithology in the world, and so it's my interests, and an Ivy League school. So it's still reach, but I'm hoping that's where I can go.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to do cross country with a D1 school as well, and so that would tie in there. Yeah.
And so when does that process start for you? When do you, start sending in those applications? When do you contact the cross country coach? Do they know who you are already? Those kinds of things.
So for me, I haven't contacted any of like the coaches or anything like that, but I plan up to go this summer to go have a tour. I plan to talk to them at that point.
To run by with the bird.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, hopefully we'll send them this podcast and let them know you're interested, because they'd be lucky to have you. You could tell you're going to go on to do great things. You could just tell being around you that you're going to be successful. And so running at the Division I level, what else outside the Ivies are you looking at? Regions? Are you looking at specific schools? Are you looking at schools that have birding and bio and ornithology majors?
So yeah, like zoology, that kind of stuff. That's those are my interests. So those would be the schools I'm looking into. And at the moment, I don't have any others that are particularly like standing out to me at the moment. But I haven't done a crazy amount of research, so that very well may change.
Well, that'll be changing soon. Yeah, getting towards that. And we've actually had students go to Cornell, so maybe we can help you make some of those connections. Bryce, anything you wanted to talk about that I didn't bring up or that we haven't talked about?
Not that I can think of at the moment. No.
Okay. Well, it's been nice to meet somebody new from our school community. Again, I'm glad to hear that your transition went well. We hope we did our part, as your school district, but you certainly are someone who's easy to work with. You're easy to get along with. And again, to people knocking down my door saying, you got to meet Bryce Shannon. Did you see what he did in States? And certainly some of your hobbies here. So that's incredible. Bryce, what's something that's challenging for you? You're doing all these cool things. You're successful at running. Your grades are through the roof. What's something that maybe is like difficult for you?
One thing that's definitely difficult for me, is like it's the endurance aspect, which is like what kind of helps me with the cross country and such. And I think that's one of the hardest things about cross country, is that it's the entire thing is in a way pain, and you just got to work through it. So that I think cross country does help. Really, I think it would help anyone
Yeah.
with kind of getting through that, like being able to keep going.
Persevere.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so then it translates over into the school and that kind of stuff. So I think that's definitely helped me
Nice.
quite a lot.
Great answer. Yeah. Off the cuff. What do you wear on your feet? Are you picky with your shoes, or you could throw any tennis shoes
Yeah.
on and you're going? What do you,
Yeah.
or are you
I
specific?
mean, right now I just have the shoe that fits my feet well. But
And it's a Nike.
yeah, these are Nike Pegasus.
Do you
So it's just
do you live and die by Nike Pegasus, or you open to other brands, or what?
I would be open to other brands. These are the ones just work best for me. I've tried other ones, but it just depends on how you land and all that kind of stuff. And so these are the ones I've been training in for a fair amount now.
Bryce, the Hokas and some of these other brands are making a really thick kind of base. As a runner, what are your thoughts there?
So Hoka's, the goal with Hoka's is there for people who heel strike a lot, and the thick base will actually roll you onto the ball of your feet. That's kind of where you want to be landing when you're running, because it keeps the momentum going. Heel striking, it means that you're kind of out front, and it'll actually kind of send some momentum backwards and will slow you down.
Interesting.
So that's what the goal of Hoka is. I don't run like that, and I've tried them. They don't really work for me, so that's why I stick with these.
Yeah. Well, Nike, if you're listening, we'll accept some sponsorship, some NIL here for this star that he wears Nike Pegasus. About size 11?
10, I think.
10 and a half. Let's get him some sponsorship. Well, Bryce, it's been great to talk with you. Again, meeting new people, meeting new students, but you're bringing a wealth of just cool stuff here. And that birding, that stuff is very interesting. Has your science classes, like, would you be able to bring the bird here to demonstrate? Are you allowed to?
I would be happy to
do that.
So yeah, I'd be happy to talk to you guys about figuring something out about that, doing a presentation, bringing in some birds.
I mean, the little kids would be just so intrigued. So you could bring the bird here.
I could, yes. Presentation
might be an idea. Poor Jervis coming to a theater near you. That would be cool. Let's definitely look at how we can do that.
Sounds good. Yeah.
That would be cool.
Happy to.
Yeah. Well, this is Bryce Shannon. Bryce, before I let you go, I like this question. It's behind all the work that we're doing. It's behind everything we do here. What does Port Pride mean to you as someone who's only here just a couple months, but certainly excelling here? What does Port Pride mean to you?
Well, I think tying it back to like the whole thing about endurance running is that like persevering and working through for that, and it'll help you out through anything you do, like coming to a new school and figuring all that stuff out. And if you're able to keep going, then you'll overcome all issues.
Fantastic. Junior Bryce Shannon, a shout out to his family here. We're glad you made the choice, allowing this young man to join us. Bryce, congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations on the cross country award and the recognition there, but also excelling in the classroom. I mean, I looked at his grades and his report card. I mean, there was more hundreds than I've seen, and it was tremendous. So congratulations. We wish you the best in your future, and happy that you came on the podcast.
All right, thank you.
Nice to meet you. Bryce Shannon, he's a junior here. Again, if you're watching this on record, leave him a comment, leave him a shout out. And if you have a recommendation of a person, alum, a community member, or certainly someone here in the Port Jervis School community for the podcast, please reach out to me. It's great to carry the banner for our schools and meet fine young people like this. We are going to sign off here on the show. Follow us on our social medias, and certainly, again, leave Bryce a comment here. Bryce, thanks, man.
Thank you.
Can I get a go Port?
All right, go Port.
There we go.